The morning air in the city was crisp, carrying with it a strange mixture of exhaustion and hope. Inside the tall glass building of a well-known company, the polished marble floors echoed with the sound of hurried footsteps. Receptionists tapped at keyboards, phones rang, and applicants in neat suits sat anxiously clutching their resumes. It was interview day for one of the company's most sought-after positions. Amidst this world of formality and pressure, the glass doors slowly creaked open. In stepped a little girl, no older than 10, dressed in a simple faded dress with a bow that had seen better days. In her small hands, she carried a folded envelope. Her shoes were slightly scuffed, her hair neatly tied into pigtails, and her big brown eyes shone with determination. She looked entirely out of place, yet she walked forward with the kind of courage adults often struggle to find. The receptionist blinked in surprise, unsure whether to stop her. But the girl, with a polite smile, approached the desk and said softly, "Excuse me, sir. My mom was supposed to come today, but she's very sick. She told me not to let go of this chance. So I came instead." She held up the envelope with both hands. For a moment, the room went quiet. Applicants turned their heads, some frowning, some whispering. What was this child doing here? The receptionist stammered, "Sweetheart, this is a job interview, not a school project." But the girl nodded firmly. "Yes, I know. But my mom worked all night and couldn't even stand this morning. She said this job could change everything. She made me promise to come and try, even if people laugh at me." Her words, though innocent, carried a weight that silenced the lobby. The security guard softened, the receptionist swallowed hard, and even a few applicants looked down at their shoes, uncomfortable. Before anyone could decide what to do, the elevator doors opened. Out stepped the company's CEO, a tall, composed man in a tailored suit. He noticed the unusual stillness in the lobby, then his eyes landed on the little girl clutching the envelope with all her strength. Something about her posture, nervous but unyielding, caught his attention immediately. He paused, watching silently, as if the entire busy morning had been put on hold. The CEO, Mr. Morozov, stood still for a moment, his sharp eyes softening as he took in the scene before him. He had seen many applicants in his career, polished professionals with rehearsed speeches and expensive clothes, but never a child who dared to walk into an interview lobby. Adjusting the cuff of his suit, he stepped closer, his polished shoes echoing against the marble floor. The receptionist straightened nervously. "Sir, I was just about to call security. This child." The little girl interrupted, clutching the envelope tighter. "Please, sir, don't send me away. My mom really needed this job. She wanted to come, but she's too sick to even get out of bed. She told me to be brave for her." Her voice trembled, but her gaze never wavered. A murmur swept through the applicants waiting nearby. Some smirked, thinking this was nothing but a distraction, while others lowered their eyes, ashamed at their own impatience. The CEO crouched down to meet the little girl at eye level. His stern expression softened into something almost fatherly. "What is your name?" he asked gently. "Alina," she replied, her fingers tightening around the envelope. "And my mom's name is Marina. She said this job could help us pay rent and buy her medicine. She made me promise I would come, no matter what." Her words struck him harder than he expected. For a man who spent his life building empires and balancing ledgers, it had been years since someone spoke to him with such raw sincerity. He took the envelope from her tiny hands and unfolded it carefully. Inside was a resume, typed neatly, though the paper bore smudges from being handled with care. Attached was a handwritten note in shaky letters: "Forgive me for not being able to attend in person. Life has not been kind, but I am willing to work harder than anyone. Please, give me a chance." The CEO exhaled slowly, his throat tightening. Around him, the silence was heavy. Standing again, he looked at the girl and said, "Alina, would you come with me?" Her eyes widened. "To the interview?" He smiled faintly. "Yes. I want to hear about your mother from you. Sometimes courage tells us more than a resume ever could." Gasps rippled through the waiting room. For the first time in years, the CEO felt something stir in his heart. A reminder that behind every application lay a human story. The CEO's private office was vast, lined with shelves of books, awards, and framed photographs of charity events. A panoramic window overlooked the glowing city skyline, but tonight, it wasn't the city lights that drew attention. It was the tiny figure sitting nervously in the oversized leather chair across from the desk. Alina swung her feet, which couldn't quite reach the floor, and held her small hands neatly in her lap. Mr. Morozov sat opposite her, hands folded, studying her in silence for a moment. He was a man who had interviewed hundreds, maybe thousands, of candidates in his lifetime. Yet he felt strangely unprepared for this one. "Tell me, Alina," he began, his voice calm but curious, "why do you think your mother wanted this job so badly?" Alina straightened, repeating her mother's words with surprising clarity. "Because she says good people don't want charity forever. She said real dignity comes when you can earn your bread. She wanted to work here because she heard your company is honest. She said it's better to wear out your hands than your heart." The CEO blinked. Her words, simple yet profound, struck something within him. It had been years since anyone spoke to him about dignity rather than profits, about hands and hearts instead of numbers and goals. "And what about you?" he asked softly. "What do you want?" Her gaze dropped to her little shoes. "I just want my mom to smile again. She used to smile all the time, before she got sick. I want to help her, even if I'm small." She hesitated, then added, "If you give her this job, sir, she won't feel like a burden anymore." The silence that followed was heavy, filled only by the faint ticking of the antique clock on the wall. Mr. Morozov leaned back, covering his mouth with his hand, as if hiding emotions he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. This child, with her soft voice and unshakable courage, had done what no polished candidate ever could. She had reminded him of the humanity behind every decision. Finally, he leaned forward and said quietly, "Alina, your mother raised a very brave daughter. I think I already know the answer to this interview." Alina's eyes widened. "Does that mean you'll help her?" For the first time in a long while, the CEO smiled warmly. "Yes. But not just her." The room seemed to hold its breath. The little girl sat across from the Millionaire CEO, her small legs swinging nervously under the heavy wooden chair, unable to touch the ground. She kept her hands folded in her lap, trying her best to appear serious and grown up. The CEO, a man known for his sharp business acumen and ability to read people, found himself caught in an unusual dilemma. How could a child sit in place of her mother and yet speak with such quiet determination? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the polished desk. "So, you came here today, because your mom is sick?" he asked gently. His voice, usually firm and commanding, softened in a way even his assistants would have been surprised to hear. The girl nodded, her eyes earnest. "Yes, sir. Mama has been sick for a long time. She wanted to come, but this morning she couldn't even stand up. She said this job is our last chance." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight far greater than her age. The CEO felt something stir in him, a mixture of compassion, admiration, and perhaps even guilt. He remembered his own childhood, the struggles his single mother had faced when he was just a boy. He had buried those memories deep under layers of wealth and success, but now, looking at the child, they surfaced vividly. The silence stretched until the girl, gathering courage, added, "Mama said she would do the job with all her heart. And, I promise, sir, if you help us, I will study hard, so one day I won't need to ask anyone for help." The CEO's throat tightened. This was no ordinary interview. It was a moment that revealed not just a desperate situation, but also the resilience of a family bound by love. He took a deep breath, then reached across the desk, sliding his hand over a document. "You don't need to worry anymore," he said firmly. "Tell your mother she has the job. And tell her to take her time to get well. From now on, she doesn't need to carry this burden alone." The girl's eyes widened, shimmering with tears she tried to hide. She stood quickly, bowed slightly the way she had seen adults do, and whispered, "Thank you, sir. You've saved my mom." For the first time in years, the CEO felt his own eyes moisten. He realized this interview had given him more than he had given away. It reminded him of the value of kindness, the power of compassion, and the habit of never forgetting where you came from.